I'm Rick Harp. This is your APTN News Brief for Friday, February 23rd. It's been 22 years since serial killer Robert Willie Pickton was arrested and imprisoned for the murder of dozens of women, and on Thursday he became officially eligible to apply for day parole, news which angered the families of some of his victims. Tina House was there.
It all began in 2002 after a rookie RCMP officer came to the farm belonging to the Pickton family in Port Coquitlam to deal with a noise complaint. The officer stumbled upon discarded women's clothing and personal items strewn about the property. That's when one of the largest investigations in Canadian history began. Robert Pickton was charged in the deaths of 26 women, but only went to trial for 6. He was found guilty of second-degree murder. A candlelight vigil was held at the former property, where so many women lost their lives. The event is also meant to raise awareness about what they call a serious flaw in the judicial system. Convicted serial killer Robert Pickton is eligible to apply for day parole as of February the 22nd, 2024. Families and advocates say they'll be there along the way to oppose that application.
This is what we have to live with.
Lorelei Williams' cousin Tanya Holick's DNA was found on the property. Pickton never went to trial for her murder, but Williams organized this event.
And the fact that he can apply just shows how much they don't care for us. It's putting us as a target. We're targets because the racist system, our racist country, the racist Canada, does not value us. There's murderers getting away with this.
Although it's been 22 years since the arrest of one of Canada's most prolific serial killers, for Michelle Pineau, the mother of Stephanie Lane, she says it's just like a nightmare she just can't wake up from.
It's important to honor the women that lost their lives here, and for my daughter, with Pickton being eligible for day parole, or being eligible to apply for day parole, Pickton should not walk on this earth. He doesn't deserve to take one step out of where he is. He needs to stay where he is until he dies.
APTN returned to the site of the vigil the morning after. Everything had mysteriously disappeared. Tina House, APTN National News, Port Coquitlam.
Still in BC, the Stahelis First Nation held a traditional ceremony and symbolic signing this week to mark a new era in child and family service delivery. The result of 3 years of negotiations, the nation now assumes greater control over their children in the hopes of reintroducing them to Stahelis culture and tradition. Once again, Tina House.
We're here in the beautiful traditional territory of the Stahelis First Nation, and joining me today is Grand Chief Willie Charlie and Chief Ralph Leon. Grand Chief, let's talk about today. What's happening here at the Longhouse today?
Today we're celebrating our chief and council, our community, kind of really supporting the work of taking back the jurisdiction of our children and families, asserting ourselves according to our inherent rights to look after our most precious resource, our children.
Chief Leon, what can we expect to happen during the event?
Well, foremost is the cultural aspect of it, coming from our matriarchs, our Sialahua. One of the most important parts to witness, because our matriarchs are law carriers of everything that goes within our jurisdiction of Stahelis.
We're not new to this work. We've been at this work for a number of years now. The first contract that we held with the Ministry of Children and Families was in 1974, and that was my mom, who's been a part of this work. We have already doing some culturally appropriate service delivery in our community. What it means is going outside the community as well to all of our children, no matter where they are in the province.
Do we have an idea, Chief Leon, about how many of your children are in different communities and how many of those kids that you want to get jurisdiction over once again?
We don't have the exact numbers, but our highest goal is to get those children back home where they belong, a place of culture, a place of community, literacy. Everything that is happening is going to work towards all of those.
To the Yukon, where First Nation and the territorial government now seek proposals to remediate the flood-damaged historic 40-mile town site. Located near Dawson City in the midst of Trondek-Witchin First Nation territory, the area was hit with high waters last May. A World Heritage Site as of 2023, its structures date back as far as the late 19th century, a number of which were damaged or even washed away completely by the flood. Now, the Yukon government has asked for proposals which would repair and protect the area from future flooding. A finalized heritage conservation plan is anticipated by the end of this year. Still in the north, the winter sitting of Nunavut's Legislative Assembly got underway this week, and Territorial Health Minister John Mayne warned fellow MLAs that money for non-insured health benefits put forward by Indigenous Services Canada won't meet the needs of most Nunavummiut for health care or medical transport. Inuit make up nearly 85% of Nunavut's population, the vast majority of whom rely on those benefits to access federally funded healthcare programs. NIHB programs in Nunavut are administered by the territory. The federal government is expected to cover the costs. Health Minister Mayne.
Mr. Speaker, the funds used to subsidize this federal program could be better used to develop, enhance, and deliver territorial health care services for Nunavummiut. In the months to come, we will continue to push Indigenous Services Canada to fully support its NIHB program. If we cannot secure full and predictable funding allocations, I will be left with no choice but to recommend to my cabinet colleagues that we turn their program back to our federal partners to administer directly.
The National Assembly of Remote Communities got underway yesterday in Edmonton. Their stated goal to form a united voice for northern communities so they can access resources the rest of the country gets to enjoy. Chris Stewart was there.
Grand Chiefs, Chiefs, Elders, and Youth. Hundreds of people from across Canada's remote areas were here at the Expo Centre in Edmonton. This is the second national gathering for the National Assembly of Remote Communities, or NARC. The group was formed in 2021 to have a united voice for the remote areas across the country, to help them access the same services that southern communities already enjoy. Bobby Narcisse is the Deputy Grand Chief of the Anishinaabe Aski Nation in Ontario and the co-chair of NARC.
Many of our remote communities are given the short end of the stick in terms of resourcing. Many of our citizens have to leave First Nation communities to go to urban centers to access things like mental health, education, employment opportunities, all those different areas that are so readily available to many of our urban brothers and sisters.
NARC was created with child welfare in mind, to help with an equitable distribution of the recent settlement for the long-term reform of First Nations child and family services, and a long-term approach for Jordan's principle. David Pratt is the first Vice Chief of the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations and co-chair of NARC.
We're going to get a lot of input from the grassroots and our elders and our youth in terms specific to the long-term reform of child welfare. So all of that's going to be going into addressing the remoteness quotient and the remoteness factor. So very important over the conversations we'll be having over the course of the next 3 days.
The conference runs until Friday. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
And that's your APTN News Brief for Friday, February 23rd. I'm Rick Harp.